What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the MontyVerse. Today, we are going to be reviewing Lightyear, the newest movie from Disney and Pixar Studios. And joining me is someone who is extremely well-versed when it comes to Disney and Pixar, the Egglord herself, Nicki. What's up, Nicki?
Not too much. I'm really excited to be talking about Lightyear. You and I both saw it last night for I believe they called it the Andy Experience.
Yes.
The IMAX screening. That was the first opportunity to watch the film. So I had been anticipating it, one of my most anticipated of this year, as any Pixar film would be. So I'm really excited to do a deep dive into it.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a non-spoiler review, so we can only dive so deep in this video. But really, what I want to talk about off the bat is you know me, like you are definitively a very big Pixar fan. You are a Pixar person. Like many of our friends, you fully love and appreciate Pixar for all that it is. Me, I like Pixar. I enjoy the movies, but I'm not what you would call a huge Pixar guy in the sense of like I'm anticipating every release and things like that. So right off the bat, I want to say, like, this is the best version of a Pixar movie for someone like me. In the way that The Incredibles was the best version of a Pixar movie for someone like me. This film felt like a genre film the way that The Incredibles did, but as The Incredibles was a superhero film, this was definitely, by definition, a science fiction movie that paid homage to the expansive and regal history of the science fiction genre in cinema, and I really appreciated that. Going into this, the one thing I was mainly worried about was that it wasn't going to... In Pixar movies, the thing that stands out the most is the heavy themes, the heavy thematic elements in the movies. And seeing the trailers and kind of thinking this movie was going to be an action film, I was afraid that we weren't going to get that. But I was pleasantly surprised that there is a very potent thematic... there was a very potent overarching theme to the film that resonates throughout the entire movie. And I was very happy about that. And I was also surprised about what that theme was. Your thoughts on that?
So just something that you already mentioned that I want to touch on a little bit is you're talking about how this was a Pixar film that felt made for you. How it's a science fiction action flick and Incredibles worked for you as a superhero flick. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something really important for people to consider, not even just with Pixar, but with animation, is it's the medium, but they're not restricted to a genre or like certain tropes, to where they have such an extensive catalog of films that transcend what you would expect from a children's film, where they have all these genres and these deep themes that they go into. So I think that's great that there's Pixar films for everyone in that regard. And I was kind of in that same vein, to where going into this, I thought it was going to be kind of... I've said it before with our trailer reaction. Even though I'm excited for any Pixar film that comes out, this was one I was also a little bit hesitant about. I was not sold on the trailers, and just on a personal level, I'm not the biggest sci-fi fan. But honestly, this film definitely exceeded my expectations. I had a lot of fun with it. It had a lot of great humor and jokes to it, but there was a depth and a theme to it that I don't want to spoil too much because it's not really evident in the trailers, that I was not expecting. And I think that was another great thing about the film, was that there were a good amount of surprises for what I was anticipating.
When you said it, I was thinking that when you mentioned the trailer and how you were surprised by the theme, as was I. Mm-hmm. This movie, like she said, has a lot of surprises. If you saw the trailer to this movie, don't think you're going into this film knowing what this movie is about. Mm-hmm. There's still a lot of things left to be revealed that this film has in store. And I liked that. I liked when I thought the film was going to zag, it zigged on me. And I really like, especially with, you come in with this stigma like a Lightyear movie from Pixar. You kind of know what this is. And I really didn't know what this is watching it. Like, it is what you think it's going to be, but and not in the way that you think it's going to happen, I should say.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Something that I mentioned to Pat earlier, too, is that even though we all know Buzz Lightyear, the toy, from the Toy Story franchise, in a way, this character and just the film in general, it feels divorced from it. It's very much in its own universe. You don't even always necessarily think about Toy Story, but they pay such a great homage to Buzz in this version of him that we see, where he's different, and there's differences in the portrayals for sure between Tim Allen and Chris Evans, but like it feels like they did him justice. I felt like this was definitely Buzz Lightyear for whatever that's worth. So I think they kind of hit a good crescendo of it's divorced from Toy Story, but it pays homage enough to it to where you see the connection.
Yeah, I want to touch on both of those things, because those are two things that I really wanted to talk about, and I was excited to talk about this movie. One is the portrayal. I know for some reason, out of nowhere, like there was the backlash in the beginning, and now there's a backlash at the end about Chris Evans playing Buzz Lightyear instead of Tim Allen. This is not the Toy Story Buzz Lightyear. Everyone knows it's not the Toy Story film Buzz Lightyear. That is the toy version of Buzz Lightyear. Mm-hmm. This is the movie that toy was based off of. That is the premise of this film. This was the movie that Andy saw in 1995 that made him fall in love with the character. But you do get an homage to the Tim Allen performance. Like, Chris Evans does this great way of having, of being able to resonate Tim Allen's like cadences and speech patterns, and even like just tone of voice at points in the film. When Chris Evans is being Buzz Lightyear, the character, in front of other people, when he's putting on this machismo persona, that's really when the Tim Allen shines through. But the more human the character becomes, and even before that, when we see him alone or in his own quarters, that's when Chris Evans really gets to make the role his own, and that's the Buzz that we have in this movie. And so they're very much two different characters, and the movie shows you that this is not the same character that you're used to seeing from the Toy Story franchise. And another interesting point that you brought up that basically was how I went into this movie. You, as a Pixar fan, you had to divorce yourself from the Toy Story franchise when watching this movie. Me, I went into it looking at it like it was its own movie, and I think I enjoyed it a lot more because of that. Mm-hmm. Don't go into this expecting Toy Story, because it's not Toy Story. Go into this expecting a fresh experience, because that's what you're going to get, and you're going to like the movie a lot more because of it.
Oh, 100%. I was going to say, because going back into the portrayal and the performance from Chris Evans, well, first of all, I do want to hats off to him, or ears off to him, as I might say. His performance is incredible, and it is crazy because I don't know, it's definitely his own, but he has such a similarity to his cadence that if I didn't know going in, it might have taken me a few minutes to even realize it wasn't Tim Allen. And without going to spoilers or specifics, there's again some catchphrases that are borrowed from the Toy Story franchise that are used in this. But again, if you're not familiar with it or going in with that mindset, it's also not distracting. It all blends in very well with the
movie.
Which
is what I thought was going to happen. Excuse me. I thought, because this is the movie that the toy is based off of, mm-hmm. so we know that we're going to get those things in the movie. We know we're getting the lasers and the jetpacks and the catchphrases, mm-hmm. but I was afraid it was going to be kind of like how they did it in Solo, where it's just this is the origin of this catchphrase.
Right.
But the way it happened in this movie felt very natural for the most part.
Yeah.
I will say for the most part.
Yeah, definitely organic. You can tell they were definitely trying to find ways to incorporate them. It wasn't 100% original, hey, this just happened because this is how someone talks. But at the same time, it also fits Buzz's character so well that it's definitely not even a knock against the movie. It's more just an observation at this point.
One thing that I found ironically hilarious is that this movie comes out, a month after Top Gun Maverick?
Yeah.
And Pete Mitchell and Buzz Lightyear are so similar in characters, especially the Buzz that we meet at the beginning of the movie. And this movie takes the one complaint I had about Top Gun Maverick and course corrects it unintentionally, because there's no way they could have known the plot to Top Gun Maverick when they were developing this movie.
100%.
And it's the exact opposite of the point of Maverick. So I found that hilarious, and I really appreciated that.
Right. It's the anti-Maverick.
Yeah. But just to jump onto a different topic, the sci-fi in this movie, it's so good. This movie pays homage to just about every science fiction franchise throughout cinema history. There's blatant Star Wars references. There's blatant Star Trek references. there's references to video games. Like, there's a lot of, like, Samus references. There's the Metroid franchise. There's references to Halo. I'm a big Halo fan. There are, like, direct references to the Halo franchise in here in regards to some of the weapon designs and armor looks. And I was totally geeking out in this theater. It's the future that we're kind of set in is an homage to Gene Roddenberry's, like, utopic future, whereas we as people, we still have problems, but our problems are not because of, like, race, religion,
right, or just bigotry.
Yeah, general bigotry. We live in a fairly utopic society where we all kind of intermingle, but of course we still have your traditional, like, ego problems or things like that, but it's not we've evolved past the pettiness of the superficiality of our appearance. And that's kind of the kind of sci-fi that I like, where we still have human drama, but not because of stuff that, you know, exists in our modern time, because in the future we've evolved past that, which I always like. So this movie is a love letter to science fiction, and I think that's so cool that Pixar is able to just jump genres like this. It's very indicative of, like, modern Marvel, where everything feels different. This movie felt different from any other Pixar movie I've seen, maybe outside of WALL-E. WALL-E was very sci-fi heavy.
Oh yeah.
But it felt like a high octane action adventure science fiction film, and I really like that in regards to the genre and the tone of the movie.
Right, and kind of like what I touched on earlier, that's just the strength that Pixar has, and that they jump around with all these genres, but kind of like what you touch on, they still can, like, delve a little bit deeper into these deeper themes that and I said this even earlier today, how you can, like, mold the exact story or the environment, like, in so many ways, but retain, like, these universal themes. And I think that's what makes a lot of these films touch people, even if it's not necessarily, like I said before, I'm really not the biggest sci-fi fan, but I still, like, felt a connection to this movie based on kind of the stuff that was underlying it, and especially the characters. This has some of the best new characters in a Pixar movie that we've seen before. I don't know if you want to begin or touch on that.
I don't want to touch on them too much, but I think we can give just, like, what we thought of them.
100%. Yep, I mean, I'm just going to say it now. MVP of the entire freaking movie is Socks, the cat.
Yes.
He is so hilarious. And I'll say off the bat, I was so worried he was going to be a very annoying pet side character based on the trailers. He knocks it out of the park. Like, every freaking thing that comes out of his mouth, his, like, disjointed android movements, and
I don't think we should talk. I think we should save a lot of what Socks does.
for
the
sure.
spoiler trap. But I will say that Socks is the best new character Pixar has created in a very long time.
Yes, and hats off to Peter Sohn, director and longtime animator for the studio, who did his voice. Absolutely phenomenal.
Steals every scene that he's in.
Every single scene.
He's, for a robot cat that I thought was going to be a total trope, total played for gags. He comes in, and his delivery and the way that he's able to kind of portray this, I don't know how to describe without spoiling it, but the way that he's able to do it, it just, I really fell in love with that character by the end of the movie.
Oh yes.
One thing I do want to touch on is the pacing of this film. It is nonstop from the beginning. It's just constantly moving on you. When you think it's going to take a beat,
right,
like, it just keeps going, and I kind of like that for this type of movie.
Oh yeah, you want this to be tight, and there are certainly, like, these deeper character moments where they might, like, pause and contemplate something or interact, but it feels like it was in service to build on the characters, build on, like, everything that was actively going on. It's a sci-fi movie, like, they have their own inventions and technology, so, like, they might, like, discuss it briefly and be like, this is what this does, but it's always in service to what is actively happening, so it's not distracting or taking away.
And to give credit to the movie, while it moves so fast, when they need to take a moment to have a moment, like, all of the moments in this film, they breathe just enough. They stop, like, you're going full throttle, and then they pump the brakes for, like, a quick second, and it screeches to a halt, but in service of that moment that you're in. And right, there's a lot of beautiful shots and scenes because of that, like stop and start to the momentum, to the pacing, and that's something I really liked about this film. There's a lot of great visuals too.
Oh yeah, I definitely don't want to spoil, but especially near the end, I would say there's a sequence, easily one of the most gorgeously animated sequences I've ever seen in a Pixar film. That and in a movie that looks beautiful just overall, just it was honestly pretty mind blowing, and that's something that I would, if I could find it just to watch that scene again, I would.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all we can talk about right now without spoiling. Like, there's so much we want to talk about. We will be having a spoiler review Sunday or Monday, premiering with a very special guest, a first-time guest on the MontyVerse. I'm very excited to have this person on to talk Lightyear. But before then, any last thoughts on the movie?
Honestly, I had a really good time with it. It's so tough because as we've said a million times, I love Pixar to death. These are some of my favorite movies of all time. So it's tough to compare it, and especially with such recency bias, up against the others in terms of my personal rankings. And if I put it lower, it's not because the film isn't great, it's just because they have so many other great films. But it definitely exceeded my expectations. I really enjoyed it. And again, especially if you're a sci-fi fan, you should probably love this. But I thought it was really great, and I enjoyed it tremendously.
Yeah, I went into this movie expecting to like it, and I left loving it. It's a great time at the movie theaters. If you're an adult, if you're a kid, if you're a fan of sci-fi movies, if you're a fan of Pixar, go see this movie. We highly recommend it.
And that's another note. This is the first Pixar film since Onward over 2 years ago to get a theatrical release at all. And by all means, I would love to see any of them on the big screen, but this one it basically requires to be seen on the big screen.
Oh yeah.
Just to really absorb every aspect of it.
We saw it in IMAX, and it definitely amplified
100%
our viewing experience seeing it on that big screen. But guys, that's Lightyear. Go see it. It's Disney. It's Pixar. It's Chris Evans. It's Captain America. Go watch this movie. But until next time, guys, Nikki, where could the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and other social platforms at Egglord Nicki. Nicki, Nicki.
And you guys can catch me on the MontyVerse. We have videos coming out all the time on lots of things. Marvel, Star Wars, Disney, Pixar, Captain America. Chris Evans is in a lot of stuff we talk about. He'll be here. Just joking. We don't know him. But you can find me on all the socials at the MontyVerse. And until next time, guys, stay versed.